Franchise?
Or
Franchise
independent?
or independent? That's a great question, isn't it? Going on a franchise, taking out a franchise, or becoming an independent instructor? A great question for us too, because I'm an AA driving instructor and trainer, always have been on a franchise. And you've always been independent, is that true?
Not totally. I did have 2 or 3 years as with a franchise.
Okay, so I suppose the first thing we should do is just explain what we mean by independent or franchise, because it's obvious to us. But basically, when you become a driving instructor, when you qualify and you want to go out and teach people, then you will need a car. And you will need to set yourself up in business. And there are 2 options you can do. You can be totally independent, buy your own little runaround car, put some dual controls in it, get yourself the relevant insurances and that, and then go out and instruct. Or you could take out a franchise with a driving school. You're still self-employed, you're still your own boss, but obviously there are certain restrictions.
But there's certain benefits too, isn't
there? There are benefits, there's benefits to both, you know.
Okay, let's look at the franchise first.
Right, okay, so sometimes you've got no option but to go franchise. You might not be able to afford to go out and buy yourself a car. You might have a beat up little wreck that's not really suitable for driving instruction, so you want to be a driving instructor, so the option is to go to a driving school.
Do they all provide cars?
No, you have different types of franchise available. Again, you know, it depends what option you want. If you want them to supply the car,
you get one that supplies the car, or you could go for one that what we call a headboard franchise.
Yeah.
Where they don't supply the car, you supply your own car, and you just carry their headboard around.
Yeah, you use their name basically, and they might supply some pupils and that sort of thing.
And because, sorry to interrupt, Chris, because they may have been established for a few years, their reputation is known, and they spend a bit of money on advertising, so most people in that area would probably ring them first if they wanted driving lessons, and therefore that's how they are able to get the supply of pupils and pass them on to you.
Right, okay, well I'm going to jump in there straight away, because this is one of my pet hates.
Yep.
You are self-employed.
Yep.
Going down the franchise route.
That is how franchises work.
Well, they do work that way, but, and it's a very big, bold but in capital letters with lots and lots of shiny lights on it, you are self-employed, and no company can guarantee you pupils.
Totally agree with that statement.
And any company that turns around and says, come and take a franchise with us, we're supplying with the pupils, I'm sorry, run a mile. Don't go anywhere near them, because nobody can guarantee pupils. Yes, they have marketing already in place, and yes, their phone will ring, as Helen said, that's where the pupils are going to go to. The difference is that driving school might have 20 instructors in a certain area, and so those 20 pupils that might ring up in the space of a week have got to go around those 20 instructors. So actually that driving school is going to provide you with 1 pupil rather than 20. So, you know, when you want to be a driving instructor, you're self-employed, you've got to market yourself, you've got to provide your own pupils. You cannot enter into a franchise, or should not enter into a franchise thinking that that's okay, they're going to give me the car, they're going to give me all the insurance, that's it, I'm made now, I'm going to have a full diary in a couple of weeks. Isn't going to work. And you can see I'm passionate about this.
Tell me why people come and see you then.
Why do they come and see me? Because I'm self-employed, I've got my own website, I market myself. Do I get pupils off the AA? Yes, as and when I require them. But not, I say as and when I require them, I don't get them. If I rang the AA up and said I want a new pupil now, they're not going to give me one.
Okay. So now we've mentioned, have you finished discussing everything you wanted to about franchising?
No, really. What I was going to say with the franchising offer, if that's the option you want to go down, I would seriously say to you, do your homework. Find out what sort of marketing they do in your area. How many...
can they find out?
Well, you can look through papers, you can look through the telephone book, anywhere online, find out what sort of advertising is going on for the different driving schools. When you want to become a driving instructor, it's funny, you will start to notice driving school cars more than you would before you decide to go down this route. So look for the cars in your area and see, you know, if you decide, let's say, I mean, I'm with the AA, so if I wanted to know how successful I might be able to be with the AA, the first thing I'd want to know is how many cars are in the area I want to cover.
Okay.
You know.
Me, I would do it slightly differently. I totally can get what you're saying. Being the person I am, I would probably either go into the waiting room at the driving test centre and have a chat, and maybe say, I'm thinking of becoming a driving instructor, or I would arrange some interviews, because I'm very much a people person, and I can usually tell whether I'm going to like that person, they're going to like me, and I respect them, etc., etc. So that might be another way of doing it.
Yeah, that is definitely, it's like I say, do your homework, phone these different schools up, see what they say. You know, it's very interesting because they're all covering the same area that you want to cover, and you ring, let's say you ring 5 and 2 of them say, yeah, we got people screaming for driving instructors at the moment. I want to know why they're not doing more about recruiting driving instructors. If they've got that many people, why are they not actively seeking driving instructors? You know, because their phone's ringing and they haven't got enough driving instructor supply to those phone calls. They're going to be looking for driving instructors, be advertising for them, and you don't see that often. You don't see that often, so I'd be looking for that. Speak to the different schools and find out what's available to you. I fully take on board what you say about going into a waiting room and chatting to other driving instructors. The only trouble is, you and I both know that there's a lot of, shall we say, porcupines given in waiting rooms. You know,
it just gives you,
some instructors. If you go in there at the right time, you might get some really nice guys in there that will be very honest and upfront. But at other times you might go in there and they don't want another instructor on their patch, and so they might tell you, "Oh no, there's no work around," and all that. You've got to. What we're trying to get across with the franchise bit.
Do some work.
Yeah, do some homework. Find out. You know.
Don't be taken in by the glossy advertising.
Yeah.
And the promises that nobody can keep. Really.
No. I mean, other benefits with the franchise is the insurance you get. So you get the car supplied. It's fully insured. You have to supply your own fuel. With most franchise companies, they take care of the maintenance and everything else. They replace the car straight away if it breaks down. So there's benefits of that. Not every school does that, and you need to read up on that and find out. Look to see what sort of tie-ins you've got with them, you know.
Could you give a ballpark price, do you think? A weekly franchise fee?
You're gonna,
anything from...
with a good driving school, you're probably, if you're getting a full franchise, if you're doing a full franchise whereby they supply the car and everything, you're usually looking at somewhere on average about £200 a week. So that's what you'll be paying them for the vehicle. It doesn't pay for pupils, it doesn't guarantee you pupils. So really your £200 a week is covering things like the supply of the vehicle, the marketing that they will do for the driving school, not necessarily for you personally.
And they offer training, don't they?
Some offer training for free, some you have to buy the training. You'll get a very important indemnity insurance. You must have that. You'll get that with a franchise.
Public liability. Yeah,
public liability insurance. So all those sort of things are taken care of in the franchise package usually. So say roughly a ballpark figure of £200 a week. That's what you're going to earn to pay them, and you've got to pay it whether you've worked or not. So bear that in mind. You've got the headboard franchises, which can be a lot. I mean, I've seen them for about £20 a week with some of them, 50, somewhere about that, 20 to 50, and they just let you use the name, basically, and they will supply the occasional pupil. But as I said, be careful of that one.
So then, should we look at independent?
Yeah, carry on with the independent. There was something else about the franchise, and it's gone out of my head at the moment. It might come back.
So you might hear the term independent driving instructor, and I suppose you could say that that is where I'm from at the moment. I started off with a local franchise, and now I run my own driving school. The reason I actually did make a decision, and I'd always wanted to be independent. So it was a case of just having a go, and at the back of my head I just thought, well, if it doesn't work out, I can always go back. It is quite a big scary step going from franchise to independent, because there's a part of your brain that says, oh, but with them they were always supplying the pupils. But it is worth, in my opinion, it's worth taking that step, because it basically it's made me work much harder. The good thing is that when you work in a franchise, especially a local one, that franchise is only as good as their worst instructor. The good thing is with me, if I just feel impelled to make every lesson as perfect as I can, and it allows my personality to come out, in droves. I don't have the weekly franchise fee to pay. I'm not going around in a car supplied by them advertising their company. There are downsides. Basically, I have to supply my own car. I have to do everything for that car, so I have to service it, tax it, insure it, replace tyres, fill up the fuel, and everything else concerned with that car. Sign writing, if you're into that sort of thing. I have to buy the extra things like the headboard. If you choose to have a headboard, you don't have to. But the very, very good things, and I have to pay for my own website. But the good thing is I'm advertising myself. I'm not advertising someone else. And for me, that was always my goal, was to work completely independently, so that I know when I get pupils, it's generally they've been recommended and they want to train with me.
But I mean, you make a valid point there. I drive around in an AA car, and so it's raising the profile of the AA, so that anybody that sees the big number on the car is likely to ring that number, and that is going to happen. But then the way I look at that is that if there are 10 cars in the area, there's 10 cars generating phone calls. I might not get all those pupils.
There's definite pros and cons, isn't there?
Goes back to what I said. You mentioned about leaving a franchise because you're leaving all those pupils behind. I've never been with a franchise yet that has supplied me numerous amount of pupils. Never. I've never expected them to, and I've never found that they did. I'm not going to name the different. I've had 3 different franchises. I've been with Red, I've been with BSM, I've been with AA. One of them has particularly stood out for positive reasons, and another one's particularly stood out for negative reasons. I'm not going to say which is which. But this pupil lark, you are selling yourself. I know I'm in a car that's AA branded, but I want every pupil that gets in my car is not just having a driving lesson, they're having a sales lesson as well. Because
See, I don't think of it like that.
I want them to go away and tell their mates about me, so they're going to pick up the phone and ring me direct. My website, although it's got a picture of the AA car up on it, you can't see the number on the car. They can see my number on there, and my business cards do not have the AA number. They have my number on it, because I am selling myself. So yeah, I fully take on board what you're saying. The other thing for leaving a franchise, you leave that comfort blanket, if you like, behind.
It did feel like that, but when you think about what you've just said,
the support you get, or the support that can be available to you, is great. And when you go independent, then that support goes out the window. However, so you do have to think about that.
I do have to say that there are downsides to being franchised, and if your face just doesn't happen to fit, then
definitely.
You aren't going to get any pupils. They're just going to. I shouldn't say that really.
No, it's true. I mean, how do pupils work with a franchise? They all phone a call centre, and then they get given to. With the AA, it's got like a cab ramp, so the person that stood at the front of the queue, or the instructor that's got his car parked at the front of the queue, will get the pupil, and it's done fairly, because once you've done that pupil, you then go to the back of the queue. But then you have to build up till you get to the front and you get another pupil. So that's done quite fairly. When I first started out with Red, they just used to give you leads. It wasn't pupils. They sent you texts with a pupil's name and contact number, and used to ring that pupil. And my experience was a lot of them didn't want driving instructor. They were just making an inquiry. So you still had to sell yourself. With BSM, it very much depended on who took the cream cakes into the shop regularly.
So it was a question.
It was. So they had their favourites, no doubt. And you soon realised because at the time BSM, and it's changed now, they're owned by the same company that owned the AA, and it runs on a similar system. But when I was with them, my experience was that because we had to go to the shop once a week, if you actually worked in the area close to the shop and you started every morning there and you made the girls coffee, you took them in cream cakes, you got all the pupils, and that's how it worked. So there are pros and there are definitely cons, and you have to weigh out the difference between the two.
And what we're really saying is, it's another decision that you have to make.
Yeah, what I said just now, there was something in the back of my mind that I wanted to get across, and I think this is a great example of it. With a franchise, you have to pay that fee every week. Now, yeah, they may give you 2-3 weeks a year, like the AA does. The trouble is, they stipulate it has to be at Christmas. And the difference being, if you want to take a holiday, then you've still got to pay your franchise.
Oh yeah, that's a bonus.
You know,
isn't it, to being independent?
it's something that's got to be made.
I still have to pay my. I still have to. Obviously,
you still got
I'm
your
not getting any money.
insurances and stuff. Yeah, you're not earning, but you can take that 2 weeks off whenever you like, and you know that's fine. With me, if I want to take 2 weeks off, I know that I've still got to pay 2 weeks of franchise.
Good point.
And I can't do anything about that. But everybody's different, you know. If you're going to go down the franchise route, make sure you read the contract. There are certain terms and conditions in it. You know, you have to give them so much. Once you sign on the dotted line, you've got to be with them a year before you can leave. It's just normal contracts you'd get if you went into employment. But do read the small print. And the point we're trying to make, again, like everything else, is do your homework. Do your homework.
Decide what you want, what suits you best.
Yeah, I mean, you could start off in a franchise. You could start a franchise for 6 months, go into a franchise for 6 months.
Are we saying one's better than the other?
No, I don't think there is one. I mean, a lot of people say, think of all that money you pay for a franchise, and I say, yeah, but when you actually do the maths, sometimes there's not a vast difference between the money that a franchise instructor pays out to what an independent does.
Anyway, you know, we can't carry. We're not going to carry this on
horses
too far.
For courses. It's horses for courses.
Because by now you've probably lost the will to live.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah.
We look forward to talking to you about something else next time. Thanks.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Bye.